I understand that part of my job in being blessed with the ability to make movies is having the responsibility to go out there and sell movies, and I get that. You know, it's not my favorite part of the job, but I understand it, and I do it. And when you have something that you're proud of, it just makes it so much easier. And a movie that, God, I was just so passionate about.
I bet. Well, I hope I can ask you a couple things before, specifically about the fighter, but I always just begin. Did you go to the movies as a kid? Did you have favorite, like?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh well, that was the thing that my dad and I shared together.
Yeah.
My dad introduced me to film and cinema, and I was the youngest. So when my dad would come home from work and my brothers and sisters were in school, he would take me to the movies, or we'd watch a movie on television. And, you know, the first time I ever went to the theater was with my dad. I saw Charles Bronson in Hard Times.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Rocky with my dad.
Yep.
You know, I saw on so many boxing movies, especially, you know, The Champion with Kirk Douglas, The Setup, Robert Ryan, Garfield and Body and Soul, I mean, Requiem for a Heavyweight. I saw all these movies before I ever thought about being an actor. You know, I knew everything about Jimmy Cagney, Steve McQueen, and Edward G. Robinson. I mean, these are guys that I grew up watching. Yeah. You know, and those are guys that, in a lot of ways, remind me of my dad. You know, he's just a no-nonsense, hard-working guy.
Was he a boxer kind of guy too, or was
he loved fighting?
Yeah.
He didn't box, but he got into a couple of brawls. If some guy came out and smack. I remember there was the famous story of my dad was he had to fight this big bald guy who smacked one of my brothers and spit on him, and my brother went and ran and got my dad. My dad came out and, you know, he was a smaller guy and had to fight this guy. It was one of the legendary stories that of course throughout the years just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, it was a heavyweight title fight. But
so did your dad prevail?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Very good. Well, I won't force you to go into all this stuff again because I just saw 60 Minutes and I know it was great, but they asked you to talk a lot about childhood. I won't put you through that, but I do know there was a turning point where you sort of said, I'm going to go about life differently. Can you share? People probably have a sense of the other stuff, but maybe not specifically about what turned you around.
Well, you know, I was growing up in a neighborhood where it was common to go out and drink and get high and get in trouble and, you know, start fights and try to take what you didn't have and you thought you needed, even though it was just something that you wanted. And I ended up going to jail, and that was an eye-opener. And that was really, it's not like all of a sudden, okay, well that happens and you just wake up and you're there and you say, you know what, I'm turning my life around. That's when the real uphill battle begins, because not being one of the guys in the neighborhood anymore, not going along with running with the crowd, it makes it a lot more difficult. Then you're really on your own. But I just wanted more out of my life, and so I needed to start the journey from that point forward. And it was not easy, but nothing's ever come easy, you know, and nothing that really is going to last and have value will come easy. So I was willing to do it. I wanted to make up, you know, make amends for my mistakes, and turn my life around and make my parents proud and be a good, honest, decent human being.
So, as I understand it, when you got out, it wasn't sort of direct to acting. It was this to music to fashion to acting. Yeah. Can you connect the dots of how you finally wound up as an actor?
Yeah, I mean, it was an accident. I mean, I started doing music. The person who directed my music videos was Scott Calvert, who actually ended up directing me in the Basketball Diaries. And he told me before we shot my first music video that I should be an actor, and I just kind of scoffed at it. I was like, I'm a rapper, you know, true, and that's it. And he said, you know, that he had told Will Smith that same thing. He directed Will Smith's early videos. Parents just don't understand, and I can beat Mike Tyson, and he directed Tupac as well. And when I became successful as a rapper, I was being offered movies, but not movies that would have allowed me to have a career. You know, I was offered The White Rapper and Sister Act 2 and, you know, The Bully and a movie called Airborne about a roller skater or a surfer who moves to a hockey town and these guys are playing roller hockey and this one brother is going to bully this guy. And then it was when I met Penny Marshall, who I met here in New York City, just because I was a fan. I had no interest in working with her in the movie. I just, I grew up watching Laverne and Shirley and Danny DeVito in Taxi, and I was like, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I was like, I got to meet these people. So I met them, and they convinced me that this is what I should do. And after that experience, I literally felt like I don't want to do anything else other than act. And then the second film, luckily enough, I was able to work with Scott Calvert, who directed The Basketball Diaries with my second film. And then James Foley hired me to do Fear on the third film, and that was the first real lead role that I had. And Renaissance Man and Basketball Diaries hadn't come out yet, and he met me because Leonardo DiCaprio had worked with me on The Basketball Diaries and recommended me. He was meeting on Fear for that part, and he said, "You know what? I'm not really right for this, but you should meet Mark Wahlberg." And he was like, "You mean Mark the rapper?" And he was like, "Yeah, I just did a movie with him." And so he met me here in New York City as well, and we had an 8-hour meeting together, and we really hit it off. But when I got home, he called me and goes, "Look, I just want to tell you, obviously there's no way we can do this movie together, but I still want to be friends." I go, "Dude, I only hung out with you because I thought you were cool. We can have a 30-minute meeting, and you do whatever you want to do. That's fine. But I hung out because I like you, and not a problem." So then he felt obligated to give me an audition and maybe give me one of the smaller parts in the movie. And what happened was he went and put me on tape, and then he said, "You know what?" He said to the studio, and he said to Brian Grazer, "I'm not doing this movie unless you hire Mark Wahlberg as the lead." They're like, "What do you mean?" This is I don't know how much the movie cost at the time, but we've never seen any of the movies that he's done. And then he showed the audition, and they were nice enough to give me the shot.
Wow. And I may be wrong about this, but it seems like it was Boogie Nights the one that really catapulted things to a different level.
Yeah, well, that was the first time that I loved acting, but I loved acting in a place where I was comfortable, playing the tough guy. I was still in that whole headspace of what people back home think, and, being the guy's guy and not playing anything other than a badass. And that was such a pivotal moment for me because after meeting Paul, I knew this could be something special, but this is now, am I going to be an actor? Right. Do it for real. And that obviously, changed everything for me. And it was funny because literally after playing that part, people kind of like saw me as that guy. And I was like still trying to find edgier roles as well. And people were like, "No, you're the guy from Boogie Nights. You can't play that kind of edgy, harder guy." But that definitely changed a lot of things for me.
The last one that I'll ask you about before The Fighter is just Departed, because obviously A, it's great, and B, in this case here you got the Oscar nomination, which I wonder, as somebody who had really come from about as outside of the normal route as possible to the industry, did that have any sort of greater meaning? I know it's always probably special, but particularly to be embraced into like a club of that sort where they're never gonna, they can't take that away from you ever. It's an awesome,
Of course, I mean it was probably something that you thought wasn't really going to ever happen. So it was always like, that's not why I do it. It's not a big deal. But when it happened, it was such a big deal. And it meant so much to me. But it meant the world to my dad. I remember my dad saying to me, I don't care about the big paychecks and all of that other stuff. Now you can consider yourself an actor. He watched the Academy Awards since he was a little kid, and he was such a huge fan of film and acting.
And he lived to see that, right? So that's great.